Hi everyone, welcome to Introduction to Public Relations, and this is our first lecture of the course, week one. We will be discussing what is public relations and the types of careers that you can have in public relations. Before I get started, let me remind you, it is very important for you to read your textbook and not just rely on these slides. These slides will not include everything that is in your textbook. I know you all can read because you are in college, so you need to be reading your textbook, especially for the quizzes, and to flesh out all that we're talking about in the slides. So the slides are my input, my advice, my insight into the topics that we will be covering each week. All right, so let's get started. First, what is public relations? It's often not understood what PR is. It is not a licensed field. Anyone can say that they are a PR person, which is not always beneficial for the industry. So let's get into that. First, a PR person is a communication specialist hired by an organization to perform a variety of communication tasks. And they also should be advising management and others on how to respond and how to inform and how to reach the different audiences that they're trying to reach. It does have a lot of variety to it. That's one thing I always have liked about it. My background, my undergraduate degree is in public relations, my master's is in journalism. And most of my career has been built in PR type jobs. And then I started going into teaching because I love that and teaching public relations, but I still do PR on the side, do a lot of writing and editing as well. But one thing that always appealed to me was the variety. Some days I would be writing, some days I'd be planning an event, some days I would be working on a website, I would be working with a photographer or working with a designer. So there's a lot of different things that you do on the job as a PR person. You also have to be comfortable with working with people. One of the things that my alumni tell me once they get out and they're working in the field, that the hardest thing for them is actually dealing with other people. It's dealing with clients, dealing with other employees, dealing with bosses. So it's just something that you get used to doing over time. But the more that you can interact with others, before you even start your career, the better that you will be when you have to do it for a living. Okay, so PR is multifaceted, so that leads to the variety of it. You do a lot of written communication. You must also do research, know how to negotiate with others so that you can determine what is the best strategy to take. It is a creative field. Logistics, meaning that you have to know how to plan and how to handle different events or activities. You facilitate things for your organization, for your bosses, and you also have to solve problems. So a day on the job, one of the first things, especially back in the day, I would read the newspapers every day. So the newspapers that were covering my clients or my organization that I was working for, I would read those newspapers every single day to see what was going on. I had a colleague who would read the Detroit News every day. I read the Detroit Free Press, and we each took some of the local papers and shared those and split them up and read those. So that's really important for you to do in your job as a PR person, is to keep up with what's happening. It's a lot easier today, but it's also a lot more overwhelming because we have so much more information out there. When I have a client or a company I'm working for, I always set up Google alerts so that I can get emails that tell me what has been written and said about my organization. We'll talk more about monitoring that when we get to the research section of our class. You will be doing social media work. Most of my alumni who have graduated in the last 10 years, they are doing a lot of social media, whether it be for an agency and they're handling social media for different clients, or if it's for their own businesses that they're working for. So social media is not something I learned about in college. It's not something, it wasn't around. So a point I like to make to my students is that you must be a critical thinker and always must be learning. I am 56 years old. We'll be turning 57 in the next few months. And my goal in my life is to try to learn something every single day. So I hope I'm like that. If I live till I'm 90 or 100, I hope I'm still trying to learn something every single day. So I encourage you to have that same attitude, that you want to keep learning and keep growing for yourself, but also as in your profession. You will be doing a lot of planning. I'm a big to-do list person, and of course the tools that we have for that are much easier now than they used to be. But planning, having meetings, coordinating events, and then also producing publications. So you basically, in many ways, you're serving as a reporter by interviewing and doing research as well. We'll talk more about that as we get into the class. Day on the job, depending upon the day, it could vary a lot, like I said, but writing news releases, coordinating with a designer to come up with brochures and advertising, writing speeches. I've written speeches for myself and for others. You also have to monitor and track feedback and comments that others are making about you or your company. You handle special events. You deal with relationship with various publics. I dabble in graphic design. I am not a designer. Some of you are probably in taking this class. But it does help me to know as much as I do know so that I can work with designers and understand the struggles that they're having and also try to keep them on task in a really positive way. Sometimes designers want everything to look really good, but they're not really concerned as much about how it's communicating. So we always have to think about not only how it looks, but what it's communicating as well. So a PR person can help a designer do that. The PR field is growing. Every time I've checked in the past 2 years, it continues to grow. In most nations, it is a big industry in the United States. Abroad in other countries, it is expected to grow, especially in Asia and China, because as we know, those countries are growing a lot in their economy and their business. And PR is expected to be a part of that as well. So let's talk about what is PR. And the definitions for PR really vary. I have one that I'm going to show you in a few minutes. That's my favorite. But I thought it was interesting a few years ago, a PR person asked his Twitter friends to define PR in 140 characters or less. That's when Twitter was only 140. So I like some of these responses. PR is not rocket science. Keep promises, exceed expectations, collaborate with teammates and clients, and have fun. That was by Terry Morris. Another one, telling your story and sharing your news with internal and external audiences to build trust and ties, by Jason Mudd. So those are some kind of interesting thoughts about that. Also, some more. PR is authentic, ad-free, communication to build brands and create awareness. Coupled with social media, PR promotes and manages a company, person, or brand image. Another one, the space between your brand and its biggest critic or cheerleader. And last, PR influences an audience to trust you, your product, or your service through truthful statements and reliable testimony. Jim DiLorenzo. You can see the whole article. I have a link to it on the previous slide for you to go look at that. So that you can see that there's a lot of different input and different ideas about what PR is and is not. So this is the definition I like the most. It is the planned effort, excuse me, the planned effort to influence opinion through good character and responsible performance based on mutually satisfactory two-way communication. That's from Fraser Seitel, a book that we used to use, The Practice of Public Relations. And I really like this, so let's kind of work through this. It is planned. PR is not a seat of your pants, reactionary. It is something that you plan and that you focus on. You're trying to influence opinion. You're not trying to sell something that could be part of your PR job, but it's really about influencing opinion with your different audiences. It's about good character and responsible performance. So it's not about spin. It's not about negativity. It is about being a good neighbor and being truthful and helpful to your audiences. And it's also about two-way communication. It's not just about talking all the time, but it's also about listening. What are your audiences telling you? And listening to those things, and then communicating that to the higher ups in your company. So this is my favorite definition of PR. So some key terms also, I was in a recent lunch with some students, and we had some PR and advertising agency heads there. And the PR person said he liked the definition of storytelling, that PR is telling your story. I really like that. It's also about building relationships and then also managing relationships. As I said before, it's planned, it's in the public interest, and it's two-way. So those are some key terms for you to hold on to. So this is something that we will be spending, I believe it's next week, some time on PR as a process. And this is an acronym that we've used in the PR industry for a long time. Other people use different acronyms, but it's basically the same steps to coming up with a PR plan or project. The first is that you do research, and then you do action and planning. Then you do the actual communication, and then you evaluate it. So you kind of see how did everything work so that you can learn from it and move forward. Some differences between journalism and PR. So we have three fields that PR people are very related to: journalism, advertising, and marketing. And in today's world, we're really focused on integrated communication where all those things should be working together. But let's talk about some of the differences and some of the things that we have in common. Journalists, of course, are independent, and they are only doing part of what a PR person does. They are doing writing and reporting. They are working to get information and to communicate it. They are objective. They're not working on behalf of a client. They are trying to have balance and to present the information in a unbiased way. We could go a lot into that about journalism. We're not going to right now. So they also are focused on a bigger audience, and they usually use only one channel, although, of course, many of our journalists today are on TV and also on a website and a blog and Twitter and all those type of things as well. A PR person uses many components. As we've said, they write, they dabble in design, they're thinking about marketing, they're thinking about advertising, they can use video, all of those things, special events. They are advocates, so they are working on behalf of a company, an organization, a nonprofit, a mission group, whatever it might be. They are focused on specific publics that they're trying to reach, specific target audiences, and they're using a variety of ways to do that. Not just the media, but they're using other techniques as well. Okay, advertising and PR. Advertising, of course, is through a mass media outlet, whether it's TV, website, billboards, video screens, whatever it might be. It's always externally related. It is a communications function. PR people use advertising, but advertising comes with money. It's talking about selling goods and services. PR, you're not actually paying for the communication. So PR, you're using a lot of different communication tools. So you're trying to get things for free. So PR is a great technique for nonprofits and small businesses to use because, as we all know, advertising costs a lot of money. PR then is broader in scope. It's not just about selling a good or selling a service. It's more about an image and having a relationship, where advertising is more about communicating, a different product, a new brand, a new idea, a new service that you may want to be using as a customer. All right, and marketing and PR are very related. But marketing is more focused. It's more concerned with customers and selling products or services. And it's dealing very much with consumers, customers, target market, what's our packaging look like? Where are we in the store? Those type of things. PR is broader than that. It's about building relationships and generating goodwill. Of course, we do deal with products and services and deal with consumers. But it's much broader than that. It's more about image and reputation and not just about an actual product or an actual service. So 8 ways that PR supports marketing. They are very related. I know that some universities have even combine their PR and marketing efforts. So they have an integrated marketing degree, which I think is a positive thing. You'll notice if you are a PR major that you are taking some marketing classes. If you are not a PR major and you're a marketing major, welcome aboard. So we will be working closely together in the future as PR and marketing people. But PR helps develop new prospects for marketers. Third-party endorsements is something that we'll talk a lot. And third-party endorsements is when someone else is saying good things about your organization. So if I get an article in the Detroit Free Press for Rochester University about maybe the name change, some new effort that we have, and the Free Press writes an article about that, that is third-party endorsement. That's not me saying something about the university. That's a third person talking about the university. And those tend to have more weight and more credibility with different audiences. You help marketers generate sales leads and sales calls. PR is something that can be done more inexpensively than advertising and marketing in many cases. And you can establish credibility. It's broader. It's about reputation. So it's all very integrated, as I said. So most organizations will use a variety of these strategies and tactics to communicate to all their different audiences. So they all work together very closely. So PR accomplishes a favorable image, goodwill. We will talk a lot about that this course in your PR Hall of Fame and Shame discussions about how different organizations are succeeding or not succeeding in that area, about promoting products and services, about goodwill among employees and members, goodwill in the community, and if it's a public company, goodwill among the stockholders. So PR is not, and this is really important to me, PR does not interfere with the normal flow of news. So if you have a new PR campaign and it's going to be delivered on a certain day, but there's a big national story that happens on that same day, then your PR campaign is probably not going to get noticed. For example, I have a friend who had a PR campaign ready to launch in late September of 2001. But of course, as we all know, 9/11 happened. And for the next 2 or 3 weeks, even months, years, that's pretty much all that any media was covering. So her PR campaign did not get off the ground. She had to wait and postpone on that because the media coverage of everything was all tied in very closely to that tragic event. It took several weeks before TV and other places were talking about other events again after that tragedy. Also, PR is not spin. It's not being invasive. It's not lying. It is none of those things. And too many times people use the word PR as another word for lying or negativity. And that is not the case. You can put a positive slant on a negative story. You know, is the glass half full or is it half empty? But then a negative spin is with you're confusing, you're blurring the facts, you're not answering the questions, you're lying, you're yelling at someone else. Those are all tactics that we should not use as a PR person. The term spin, I believe, has hurt our field. I was at a PR conference a few years ago, and one of the guest speakers used the word spin, and the whole audience we were all PR professionals, we all groaned because we do not use that word. We try not to spin. A true PR person does not try to spin a story. They try to put a positive slant, but they don't ever try to obscure or lie or confuse. Even if it's a hard story, you don't do those things. And PR is also not merely propaganda or publicity. It is much broader than those things. So, as I said, the reputation of PR, one study in PR Week found that PR is among the least credible occupations, along with entertainers and TV talk show hosts, because I think anyone can claim to be a PR professional. And our industry, I think it's much better now than it has been in the past. But in PR Week, which is an industry publication, they surveyed 1,700 PR executives and found that 25% admitted to lying on the job. So we need to hold ourselves to a high standard. And I believe that's why, especially people that have a faith foundation in their lives, They're committed to integrity in their lives, both personally and professionally. That they make good PR people because they tell the truth and they understand that sometimes you have to go through hard times, but if you handle it well, then in the long run, it'll be better for your company and your organization. 39% exaggerated the truth. 62% cannot always vouch for the validity of the information they sent out. Again, I think we need to be really careful and hold ourselves to high standards. So, a PR person should always tell the truth. You'll hear me say that again in this class. So, a PR attitude is one of pro communications. You want to disclose information and not withhold it, even if it's negative. It's advocacy, believing in who you're representing, stand up for your organization. You can advise senior manager, you can do the right thing, be willing to stand up for what you believe and be positive. I think those are all good aspects for having a good PR attitude. All right, I'm going to take a short break and then we'll be back with, if I can figure out how to stop it. We're back for chapter 2. I'm going to try to keep each of these lectures to 30 minutes or less. So I'm already at 20, but I don't think it'll take as long to cover this next section. PR. PR has evolved between just publicity and media relations, and the field is growing in health services, healthcare, financial, consumer goods, technology. All of those things have increased, and they are looking for more public relations people. And crisis management is something that PR people handle. We'll be talking about that almost every week in our PR Hall of Fame and Shame. And also when we get to the week that we talk about handling conflict and crisis. So the outlook for PR, many people are attracted to this profession. Opportunities are best for college graduates who have a degree in journalism, PR, advertising, or any other communications related field. So mass comm includes all of those. Our degree here at Rochester includes all of those areas. We try to have a overall broad degree so that will apply to many of you going into different directions and different interests. We also always recommend internships. We'll talk more about that a little bit later. So the range of PR work, you can go to work for a PR agency. See right down here for 20%. Corporations have 26%. A PR agency is like an ad agency. They just handle PR things. Many ad agencies have a PR department now, and they're handling both. My area, I have worked for an agency before. Most of my work has been done, PR work with nonprofits and charities is what I'm most interested in. And that's where I've done the majority of my work, and in education, of course. So you can see the different numbers here for the different types of places where you can be a PR person. 6 skills that you need are writing. We'll talk a lot more about that when we get to the chapter on writing. But you have to be able to convey information and ideas clearly, quickly, and concisely. And you have to have good grammar and spelling. So we will talk more about that. AP style is important because that's what the media professionals use, and so PR professionals use that as well. You have to have the ability to research, getting information, and knowing where to look for information. And as I said earlier in this lecture, reading newspapers and magazines as well. Planning, you have to be organized and detailed so that you can accomplish different tasks, and you have to kind of understand how to solve problems. You may need to be creative, kind of quick on your feet on how to solve different problems that you might be facing. You have to have some business and economic competence. That's why you have marketing classes that you'll be taking if you're a PR major. Also, I have, I've been in PR a long time. I've learned how to do a budget and how to handle a budget. It's not something that I was really trained in school. So if you want to pick up some of those other business courses, I think that would be beneficial as well. And also expertise in social media, which would be the blogging, the tweeting, podcasting, SEO, how to do a web. That's all things I've learned because I graduated with my PR degree in 1985. So none of those things were even out there. So just as I said, continue being a learner and learning how to do these and tackle and use these new skills appropriately. Qualities that employers are looking for is good writer, intelligence, understanding the culture around you. Not everyone is the same or thinks the same way that you do. So the more that you understand that, the better. Knowing a good story, being media savvy, having good contacts, good business sense, fresh perspective when looking at things. I think all those things are really important as you go forward and that employers are looking for. I'm going to give you on week 1 on Moodle, there is a handout that I'm giving you that I want you to rate yourself on. How would you rate yourself on each of these abilities? And then how can you improve on the ones in which you rank the lowest? So do that exercise, and I think it'll be informative for you as well. So the different PR roles is more of a communication technician role, the writers, the photographers, designing news brochures, organizing events. And then those are a lot of things that you do as you start out. And then you might jump more into a manager role where you're making decisions, you're overseeing multiple people and strategies, and you're the one that's overseeing people who are doing the writing and the photography and all of that. So employers are wanting solid communication skills. You know, this is a repetition of the previous slide. I'm sorry about that. So I'm going to just keep going on. We've already talked about that. This is a little bit more detailed. So look through that. Recent salaries for communication grads. This is from your book, so it's a little old, but not too old. And you can see public relations where it fits into that category. And of course, this is a very general number out there. Job levels, this is where the entry-level technician, the way that you can move out. This is out of your book. I have, been a variety of these roles, and I can say when I was a director of PR, I was hiring the entry-level technicians, and I always looked for good writing skills, good communication skills. That was the number one thing I was looking for those entry-level positions. But that just kind of shows you the steps that you can take as a PR professional. And of course, the salaries change as you go up. So the median salary in PR in 2016 was $92,000. And of course, that's across the board as well. And the median salaries for PR by region, of course, different regions have different economies and different living expenses. And so you can see where we are in the Midwest. Ours is a little lower than some of the others, but our cost of living is probably a little lower as well. And by work environment, if you're working for a PR agency, you're going to make good money. If you're working for a corporation, that's probably the highest dollars. And then, of course, a nonprofit, you're not going to make as much. It's going to kind of have maybe a different mindset and a different outlook because you are working for a nonprofit and trying to create good for them as well. Women and minorities, about 70% of PR pros are women, but I have worked with a lot of men in PR as well. But it is a really good open field for women. It's welcoming. Most women, or many women, I'll say, tend to have good listening and communication skills as well. It also growing opportunities for minorities as well. So that's always a good thing to see. There is a gender gap. Most women working in the PR field, as in many other fields, do not earn as much as men. But there are some factors. Number of years in the field, if you're a technician versus a manager, the size of the organization, and honestly, just women's attempt to balance work and family. They may not pursue some opportunities because they're trying to balance everything that they are responsible for. So also if you are a traditional student, you are required to do an internship. I recommend internships. It's a win-win situation for both the student and the organization. The first question you're going to get when you graduate and you're applying for jobs is, what experience do you have? That's the way it is. So if you can have an internship, if you've worked on Shield Media at Rochester University, those things will help you build your portfolio and talk about the experience that you have already earned in college. Many major PR firms do have an internship program and they're looking for interns. So explore those opportunities. This gives you, though, that practical work experience. It gives you firsthand knowledge. It gives you samples of your work. It also gives you contacts so that when you're looking for that first job, you have people to reach out to. So you can do some networking with them as well. So that's all of our slides for today. I'm right at 30 minutes, so I'm happy about that. And I hope this has been beneficial for you and that the first two chapters have been interesting for you as well. Thanks so much.